Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Random. Bertoli's host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today, folks. Look, if you're just getting here, this is a very important show. Please go ahead right now and share the program. I ask you so kindly to do so. Please go ahead and share the program right this minute. Why do we need you to do that? Because we're going to touch on some very, very important subjects. We're going to show you a few things. But, folks, we need your support. Remember, as I've spoken several times, the only way we are going to make a difference is if we start being the media. If we are the counteraction to the corporate media, which does not have the interest of the average employee, the average worker, the average person at hand. They don't, and the reason why, again, it's not. I mean, it's no magic about it. It's because who is paying them again? Let's remember that. Who is paying them? The one who is feeding them, the one who is paying them are the ones that they most listen to. So, folks, if you're just joining us, I ask thee so kindly to share our programs. It is essential to keep America aware that these independent progressive voices are heard. That these progressive independent voices are heard. We're about to get busy right now. I'm going to start the program off. Before we get, the title of the show today, first of all, is LULAC President discusses Meatpackers' plight. Typographical error, our grammatical error. LULAC President discusses Meatpackers' plight. American workers held hostage. We're going to start with the second part first, and then we're going to go ahead and play that interview that I did over the weekend with El Senor Domingo Garcia, who is the national president of LULAC, and we're going to be discussing those Meatpackers. But before we get busy, I want to kind of get a few things out of the way. As you know, right now the person that is going to be carrying the mantra for the Democratic Party, and with the expectation that a little bit, at least, we may get a wee bit of progressivism there. Not likely, just a bit, but we'll get some. I mean, best we can right now. Is Joe Biden, and everybody's happy. Joe Biden is leading, and even the battle states, just about every poll, Joe Biden is leading in. But that lead is 6% or whatever. And there are a lot of other things that we have to take into account. So I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take this on the other side, because this is rather important. So let's get busy. Democrats would do well to heed the observation by Amy Walter, the national editor for the Cook Political Report. What she has to say, there is only one way, in my humble opinion, that Biden can get around that. So let's listen to her and then take it on the other side.
As difficult as perhaps Friday and the weekend has been for Joe Biden, Amy Walter, if you just looked at the polls, the last 2 weeks in particular, I mean, whether it's a battleground state or a quasi-battleground state, it seems as if it doesn't matter if it's a national poll, state poll, Biden is ahead or on the move everywhere.
What you noticed over this last couple of weeks is that, voters are expecting their political leaders to meet the moment. A lot of governors have, and you're seeing their approval ratings up in the 70s, in some cases, close to 80%. Donald Trump's are back where they've always been because he met this moment in the same way he meets every moment. It's polarizing, it's divisive, and it's putting people back into their political camps. The one thing I will note, though, Chuck, as strong as Joe Biden is looking in those states and in national polls, what you also see is that President Trump hasn't cratered. And his overall vote share, if you look at the matchup between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, doesn't match his approval rating in a lot of these states. In other words, he still has room to grow in these states. There's a group of people who are saying, I like the job that the president's doing. I'm not yet quite ready to say I'm going to vote for them. It's easy for him. It's easier for Trump to get those people back. They haven't defected, at least not yet, to Joe Biden.
At least not yet, Joe Biden. But here's the issue. For them to defect to Joe Biden would have to really speak to their personal economies and speak to the point in our current time, the COVID-19 pandemic that seem like he is the only one who can make their lives better, right? Trump is a good actor. Trump is a good performer. Trump will even go to the left of Joe Biden. Trump would even give the impression that he's going to give something like Medicare for all the bills that these folks are going to be coming on, for all the rise in health insurance prices that these guys are going to come across when they see what the new bills are going to be in October. So what's going to happen if Biden does not step up to the plate, if Biden does not move from the center and move to policies that are going to help not only Biden supporters, but also Trump supporters as they see their personal economy crumble. And Trump speaks to that personal economy, and Joe continues to maintain the pragmatic center that's going to make sure that we don't blow the budget, and that's going to make sure that we don't give people free stuff as he tries to be that person. Then what you're going to find is that Trump is going to go around his left flank. Trump already has his right flank secured, and that win that these polls are seeming to show will evaporate rather quickly because there will be then several forces working against Joe Biden. We'll have voter suppression. We have an economy that Donald Trump has cratered but would give the impression that it's somebody else's problem and only he can fix, because somebody running from the center and pragmatism doesn't give anyone any hope that their life is going to be better. So Biden better start right now, step up, left, tell what you're going to do for people, and then we'll see those poll numbers become a little bit more stay in, and not only stay in, but you will also see what's going to be necessary, and that is the drop in Donald Trump's poll numbers within his own base. I'm so Woolies. Okay, I hope you got what I was saying there, or what I was trying to say, and that is, El Senor Biden, these poll numbers that are out there right now, all the dire straits that it seems like Donald Trump is in right now, there are a lot of factors that could turn that around right away. But anyhow, yesterday, I saw, it's talking about cognitive dissonance. Yesterday, I saw a piece, I think it was on This Week. Yeah, on This Week with what Joe Pompano did. And I need you to take a look at this, and then we'll take this on the other side. Secretary of State Pompeo appeared on This Week today with Martha Raddatz, and she asked him specifically, do you believe that this coronavirus was actually man-made or something to that effect? And you know what? He lied. But I'm going to take it on the other side because there's something I want to explain about what he did.
Do you believe it was man-made or genetically modified?
Look, the best experts so far seem to think it was man-made. Look, the best experts so far seem to think it was man-made. I have no reason to disbelieve that at this point.
Your Office of the DNI says the consensus, the scientific consensus, was not man-made or genetically modified.
That's right. I agree with that. Yeah, I've seen their analysis. I've seen the summary that you saw that was released publicly. I have no reason to doubt that that is accurate at this point.
Okay, so just to be clear, you do not think it was man-made or genetically modified?
I've seen what the Intelligence Committee has said. I have no reason to believe that they've got it wrong.
Now, this is what they want you to believe. He goes ahead and he put the statement out there that he wants the right wing to run with. All the experts says that it's man-made. That's what he wants to. So he wants, though, to appear as soon as he's challenged that, believe what the experts have to say. After Martha Raddatz challenged him and said, hey, but all of the experts say it is not man-made. And then he says, I have no reason to disbelieve what the experts say. And then she wants to reaffirm it. And then she said, do you believe it is man-made? He refuses to answer the question. And then he continues with, I have no reason to not believe what the experts has to say. That was a statement designed for the right wing. The first part was designed for them to take that statement and run. And the rest was to make sure that you're never going to hear him saying it was not man-made. It was a lie. It was a well-orchestrated lie so that he could have plausibility on one side, but also have something for the right wing to keep running with, that somehow China created this virus. We can't allow that to stand. I'm Egberto Woolies. But you know what is very good with what I'm starting to see? That's great, right? We caught him red-handed. The press is starting to do the best they can under the corporate constraints. they're kind of waking up a bit to saying a little bit of truth, because I think many are realizing that for the corporate state, yeah, Trump is still gonna be okay. But for the masses, and all these people also have relatives, right? So for the masses, let's kind of put Trump in his place. And Chuck Todd did that yesterday. Once again, in the opening of this week, Chuck Todd did a marvelous job in exposing the president. He used videos, he uses the president's own words to show the failure that COVID-19 has been for this administration. Let's take a look at that, and we'll take it on the other side.
On Tuesday, the president promised to meet the testing benchmark set by a Harvard study.
Are you saying you're confident you can surpass 5 million tests per day? Is that?
Oh, well, we're going to be there very soon.
On Wednesday, he walked that back.
I didn't say it, but somebody came out with a report saying 5 million. I think that was from the Harvard report, but we are going to be there at a certain point.
Even so, the president and his political aides are trying to recast the federal response to the pandemic as a success story.
We did all the right moves. I think we did a spectacular job. We have saved thousands and thousands of lives. I can even make that, if you want, hundreds of thousands of lives.
The federal government rose to the challenge, and this is a great success story.
The language is nothing new. For months, as the death toll has risen, the president has declared in some form or another, mission accomplished.
When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. As we near the end of our historic battle with the invisible enemy, we can begin the next front in our war, which we are calling Opening Up America Again.
Back in late February, you predicted that the number of cases would go down to zero. How did we get from your prediction of 0 to 1 million?
Well, it will go down to zero ultimately.
Yeah, it will go down to zero ultimately if everybody dies. No, that's not what's going to happen. But look, that is a classic case of cognitive dissonance. Now, I think it's important for us to understand what's going on here. Yes, he's putting that message out for his people to hear and believe. The other thing is that with opening up what he's called opening up the economy, what's going to happen is, yes, a lot more people is going to die. But, you know, this guy has a way of ramping you up slowly to what's going to occur. Yeah, people are going to die. I told you so. I first told you 60,000. No, I first told you 200,000. Look, 60,000 is, I mean, if we make 60,000, it's going to be a success. Oh, no. If it's going to go to 70 or 80,000, maybe even 90,000 or maybe higher. So did you say that it was going to be higher than 60,000? I did say it was going to be higher than 60,000. So, I mean, the way he double talks, the way he talks is to convince his people that somehow he is telling the truth about what's going on. What Chuck did in that list of things, it shows that his words mean nothing. What you see when they're presenting him with facts and he's giving them an alternate reality is that he's either insane, or if he's not insane, he's purposefully misleading. Well, we know that probably there's a little bit of both on either side. Here's my fear. With the country opening up, with a lot of these governors responsible for their own people, and they are the ones that are opening the thing, we have to be very concerned that the reporting of deaths that's going to occur, the increasing in deaths, it's going to actually be reflected in coronavirus and not some other cause. Folks, we have to be very careful with how they're going to report this. Because do remember this. The amount of people that are going to die, everybody's not going to die. 80% of people are going to be just fine. 80% of people are going to get this disease and they're going to be fine. Another 20% are going to go through hell before they recover. And of that 20%, I don't know, maybe 4% of those will die. So it is important to know that those that will die will be a large percentage of people. It will hurt people that's family members, etc. Not because it's not going to affect the majority of the population, mean we say, hey, the fittest survive. If your body chemistry does not allow the coronavirus to either come and have no symptoms, or either come and you get sick and not die, you are just a failure. Die. Survival of the fittest. Unfortunately for Donald Trump, the people that this stuff most affect, other than people of color, are the sicker people, and those are his people. And those are his people. And you know, why do I say this? I want to show you a report by Common Dreams, because here's the deal. Take a look at this. Common Dreams. Kind of like large-scale negligent homicide. A Trump As Trump urges reopenings, CDC report warns of surge in COVID-19 deaths. Internal CDC document projects U.S. coronavirus deaths could reach 3,000 per day by June 1st, nearly double the current daily death rates. So I guess that is okay. And here's the story. It says, as President Donald Trump publicly encourages states to reopen their economies against the advice of public health experts, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, remember, that's his department now. The advice of public health experts, the Centers for Disease and Prevention is privately projecting that U.S. COVID-19 deaths could reach a staggering 3,000 per day by June 1st, nearly double the current daily death toll of more than 1,700. So you see all those people that you see marching in Michigan with rifles and their racist paraphernalia, etc., etc. All those people in Austin that you see pushing the officer down because he's trying to keep social distancing. All those beaches in Florida where you see the people going through and trying to tell folks, please keep your distance. All those people that are fighting to say, no, we want to go back to work. No, we want to get out of our house or whatever. Look, there is something that is happening, right? There is something that is happening. And that is, there is this psychological warfare that is occurring. That the right wing is sending out all kinds of dubious information out there to tell people that the vaccines, that this is a coup by the to develop a vaccine that is somehow going to make them rich. They don't need to do this kind of stuff to get rich. They have a government that gives them everything that they want. Not because a pharmaceutical company is evil. I want to read something that I put on my Facebook page and newsletter today, because it is something that's prescient. It came from a friend. I mean, that several friends sent me a particular video, and this particular video made me irate. I'm just going to get to it and play a little tiny bit of it if I can find it. Because what this video did to me is it said to me, my God, what they're doing is working. What they're doing is working. I think I may be able to get to that video. Here, check just a little piece of it. Here he goes.
And have been trying to sell the world on a one world government. After World War I, they tried to establish the League of and that failed. And then after World War II, they established
I'm going to scroll a little bit.
Pandemic exercise called Event 201 at Johns Hopkins University. Resume, but before the Lord, we have never shut down the U.S. economy over that big of a threat and that many deaths. But here we are, for some reason, the powers that be have chosen to shut down America over COVID-19, which we've already said they're cooking the books on it. But right now, there are 70,000 cases against 39 million cases every year between flu and COVID. Again, we get caught up in the day-to-day 24-hour news cycle, but stop and think about all the changes into a global, sometimes daily, on the drain. We've watched the government take charge of the means of production, which is a classic definition of socialism.
See, that's where we're going.
We got the government using executive orders, loans, and grants in order to pick which businesses will win and which businesses will lose. Another big change that's come out of this is they've made the church irrelevant. Or should I say more irrelevant than what we already were.
Of course, he's a dumb pastor.
In times past, when America went into a crisis, they would call the people of God to pray. That's not what we're hearing now. We're hearing we need doctors, we need scientists, we need people to tell us how to do this. We don't need God, we don't need...
Now, do you see that? We don't need scientists. We need God. This is the kind of thinking, and the way he starts is he captures people because of their pain. He captures people because they're cooped up. The government says, based on science, in order for us to stay safe and to lower the temperature of this virus, we have to stay home. If we stay home, the economy goes south. If the economy goes south, people still need to eat. They need income. So we want to do something like give them basic income. All these things, this pastor, this guy that is supposed to be a representative of Jesus, who is supposed to be a good person, is saying, I don't want, in this thing that this person sent me, and several people sent me this video, in this thing that they're talking about, oh, they want to give basic income. That is socialism. It's not socialism when they're giving money to the church when they're in trouble. It's not socialism when they're giving the corporations all these billions of dollars as the little mom and pop shops don't get anything or get very little. It's not socialism then. The government, under the auspices of science, is saying, let's keep people home. Let's hold on and let people get this virus temperature down. They are making it into a conspiracy, and then they fit it into you are tired of being at home. I get it. You're tired of not making money. I get it. But if we had a government that went ahead and says, for these times when we are asking you to do these things, basic income to cover you over, to tie you over until this is over. But they don't want that. These evil corporatists, preachers, and others don't want that. You see, if they give you that, you are going to get a taste of a functional government, so that when capitalism fails, as it does every cycle, that while it is failing, or while the economic system is failing and going into a recovery state, people continue to make whole. But they don't want that. They want you to feel that you always have to come in to work, even at your peril. Because if the government is really behaving like a government, we the people protecting the best welfare of the people, suddenly you no longer have that slave master, that antiseptic slave master, that indentured servant maker. You have to understand what's going on here. These guys are starting to see the potential for a paradigm shift because COVID-19 in one big mass around the entire country. It's not just the oil company failing. It's just the steel company failing. It's not just these different things that are failing. The entire country, because the virus has no eyes, knows no location, and because they have allowed it to escape, with the expectation that it would have gone away, not to affect the stock market, it's infecting everywhere. So now, government comes to the rescue. The corporatocracy, the plutocracy is scared to death because in rescuing you, the government doesn't have to make a profit. Trump is trying every way to profit from coronavirus, from ventilators that were contracted to be sold somewhere between $2,500 and $3,200, being sold for $25,000 and $35,000 and $50,000. From MMEs that should have been there for you, being sold at 5 or 10 times the cost. Why do they cost? Oh, supply and demand, capitalism. Even in a pandemic, they are ripping you off, causing your debts. It has no morals. It has no mercy. It has no feelings. They are scared because there are two things happening here. You are seeing the evil within, but you're also seeing that a government can act effective. And they have their minions out there using all kinds of psychological techniques to win over the feebled mind. What I'm saying, if you are able to, and one of the reasons I ask you, I beg you, implore you to share these types of programs is because these are the things that we have to go against. These guys are more dangerous than an atomic bomb. Because a preacher, since he works in faith and not science, anyone who looks up to him as the faith leader and thus followable is easily convinced in his evil. And that is what we have to run against. That is what we have to be careful of. And that is why all of the times that we have to get the word out. We have to make sure, folks, because it's not that your folks are bad. It's not that people are dumb. It's not that people are bad. But if you're a Christian and you follow the tenets of your good book and you believe in the faith leader, if you believe in the shepherd, then there are certain things you go ahead and you abstract from it. That's why the plutocracy made that evil pact with the evangelicals. That is what it's all about. If I can isolate you from science because you have faith, you're a good person, you have faith, and then your faith leader is instructing you, he's bought off. He's a thug. He's bought off. Then they can do these things to you. Folks, it's so important. It's so important that we get this. It is so important that we understand this. Anyhow, I wanted to bring that up because the truth of the matter is, yes, what Donald Trump is doing, that's not the picture I want. This is the one I want. The title is kind of large-scale negligent homicide to send you back to work. I want to play you another piece here because the reason why they want to send you back to work is they want to mitigate a little bit of this. And then we'll take it on the other side.
But let's talk about the economy. Just give us your big picture sense. You hear about 2008, you hear about the Great Depression. How would you describe where we're at right now and where you think we're realistically headed?
Well, Chuck, we've had some horrific economic data. We saw the largest one-month decline in consumer confidence, the largest one-month decline in consumer spending. We've had 30 million people apply for unemployment insurance in the past 6 weeks. I think it's fair to expect that over the months of April, May, and June, we'll see national income decline by 10%. The worst year in the Great Depression was 12%. We're going to experience that this spring.
I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right. And anyhow, so yes, we are heading to a Great Depression, worse than 29, not because we have to. The numbers tell you this sort of a initial forced depression. We were going there anyway. I want to let you guys know we were living on fumes for a very long time. The stock market has been doing great. But if you take a look at the value of the stocks based on the capitalization of the corporations and then based on how much activity they're really going to have and based on the wealth disparity and based on who actually spends money, right? The lower classes, the people with less money, spends everything that they get. So therefore, if you channel money to them, it goes around. But remember, being a billionaire doesn't mean you're smart, because they should want that happening. They should want some sort of redistribution to force economic activity so that they can even continue their flow. But no, they just hoard everything, right? So it's one of two things. It's either they are psychopaths, where they want to hold on to everything to ensure that those below are nothing but indentured servants, or nothing but people who have no choices, right? So the depression is coming unless, and this is where you come in, people, the depression is coming unless you force your politicians to do what's necessary to prevent it. Money is a figment of your imagination. Money is nothing more than the value of that people think it has, right? And here's the kicker. There's always been this fight about printing too much money causes inflation. That's BS. What causes inflation is scarcity. If I have a whole bunch of toilet paper to sell and, people don't have the money to buy it, of course, the value of that toilet paper, I keep lowering the value till I can sell it. If I start to give people money, as long as the money that you're giving to folk does not equal the amount of money to force that has a supply shortage. In other words, if there is enough toilet paper to go around, if there are bananas to go around, if there are enough of all these things to go around, it's impossible to get inflation. Because you know what? If there's enough product, the prices cannot go up because people say, I don't want that, bye. What we've always had in this country that people don't understand, it's a false thing of supply and demand. We stopped using oil, right? There's a glut of oil. You should be paying next to nothing for oil. You're still paying $1.29 or $1.30 or $1.40 for oil. That's not the true price of the oil. That's not true. It's not following the pattern. You can't be selling oil at that price when all of the tanks are filled up and they're paying people to take oil. That's one example, right? But we can go over and over again to show you how the market is cooked. The fact that they're saying OPEC, and Russia and Venezuela, and could you guys please stop pumping? That's called a false scarcity. In other words, they want to create a scarcity, not anything. It's not that we can't produce, we don't have enough to produce. It's a false scarcity. We don't have, if we had a truly run free enterprise economy, we would have nothing called a false scarcity. They talk about communism and managed economies. That's a joke. One of the biggest and largest managed economies right here is right here in the United States of America, and we like to call it capitalism. And it's more managed than anything else. Look up what a patent does. A patent is nothing more than a form of managing the economy. Because you're saying, I personally, I wrote it in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort for Right-Wing Doom. Before Amazon came out with a cart, a one-click cart, this lowly software developer, the idea, and when I was about to turn it into a product, did my little search and found out that even though Amazon at the time didn't have it, they patented the idea. Oh, patent an idea? Come on. And of course that meant zero, couldn't develop that particular. So don't talk about Russia and managed economy. Talk about the United States and its managed economy using patents, using certain types of laws, using certain types of depletion laws. There are a lot of things in America that regulates our economy against you, the little man. But they never talk about that. They give you the impression like we are a capitalist country where it is the most efficient allocation of resources. It's a lie. It's a lie. Anyhow, I need to start moving a little faster here. Because I got to give you the LULAC director, but the liability, to show you how evil these guys are now, talking about supply demand and now talking about responsibility, right? Oh, the market will take care of everything. If they want the government out of the market. They want the government out of corporations' businesses. So they don't want the government doing anything for corporations. Okay, they said the market will adjust itself. In other words, if a corporation does bad things, we don't need regulations. The market will take care of it. The corporation would get sued, and they'll be forced to do things. Okay. Is that really true? So then why are they doing this? And here is the New York Times article. White House and Congress clash over liability protections for businesses as firms cautiously weigh virus reopening plans. In other words, we don't want to reopen unless we get legislation that says all these lowly slaves that work for us, they can't sue us. Even if we create an environment that gives them coronavirus, meaning we don't clean down and all, they can't sue us. So we want no risk. We want protection. I thought the market should take care of that. If you can't open your store without giving folks coronavirus, then you shouldn't be open, right? The market should dictate that under your parlance. I don't think so. I think markets are a farce. I believe in free enterprise, a free enterprise market of people. But that's another thing. But check this out.
There's a new fight playing out in Washington this morning in a very big way. Democratic and Republican lawmakers clashing over who should be protected when millions of Americans return to work in the coming weeks. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says companies must be protected or else they will face a second pandemic of litigation. The New York Times reports that behind the scenes, executives and business lobbyists are pushing the White House and Congress to pass such protections. They're called the Liability Shield. But Democrats argue that a blanket protection like this could let companies off the hook when it comes to protecting their workers and customers from coronavirus. Joining me now to discuss, President of the Service Employees International Union, which represents 2 million workers across the country, Mary Kay Henry.
I think it's outrageous that employers and corporations want to shirk their responsibility to workers and consumers, and at the same time refuse to provide personal protective equipment, paid sick days, and health care to every worker in this nation. I was at McDonald's last week with striking workers who were told to wear coffee filters were told not to advise their coworkers if they had tested positive for COVID-19, and all of whom cannot afford to stay home because there's no paid sick being provided and no affordable health care as a condition of that job. I think it's a time for reckoning in this nation. We have to decide to choose between the status quo, where we write the rules in favor of corporations, or where we deal with the pain and inequality that has existed and made worse by COVID-19, and make structural change for working people to be able to have a seat at the table and bargain a better life.
Not all employers are big companies or corporations or have big business lobbies. Half this country is employed by small businesses. What do you make of the argument that many small businesses say they simply cannot reopen if they're going to face a wave of litigation? We do know that there are a group of litigators, a big group, that are sort of circling the drain waiting here.
I think about the 30 million workers unemployed, the 64 million who earn less than $15 an hour and have never had paid sick or health care as a condition of work. And I think it's time for small business, working people, and our government to join together to make sure that we hold corporations accountable. And we think that happens by more workers being able to join unions and have structural change that allows us to bargain a better life.
I want to read for you something that stuck out to me from a public health professor at George Washington University. What is important about this pandemic is that it has shined a spotlight on workers who have always been essential, but before were invisible. How do we use this dire situation to finally right what has been wrong for so long?
Well, and you've heard from essential workers who now see themselves as sacrificial, not essential, because they aren't getting what they need to protect themselves, their families, and their coworkers. And that's why we think working people have to be able to join together in unions and bargain health care across sectors. Imagine if all healthcare workers were in unions and were able to do what our unionized healthcare workers have done to get not just hazard pay, but reimbursement for childcare, reimbursement for temporary housing. That's what's happening in unionized companies, and that's what should be happening all across the economy for service and care workers everywhere.
So what is it like for workers right now who their businesses are reopening, they have to go back to work or they won't get unemployment, and they've got kids who are home while school is closed?
They're putting their lives on the line every day. It's an increasingly dangerous situation because the president's refused to do his job and use the Defense Production Act to provide the personal protective equipment that every essential worker needs. We have nursing home workers have gowns in trash bags, and then fast food workers being told to use masks that are coffee filters. We could do better. Those workers who are being forced to return to work have to be able to have the protective equipment they need.
Essential workers are nothing but sacrificial workers. Sad, sad, sad. But as you can see, it is important that we understand what these politicians are doing. They are taking, the reason that they claim that all these private corporations, all these public corporations are supposed to get the profits that they have, are supposed to have these lax regulations, et cetera, is because they take care of people. The market will reign, and also, and all these particular things. But as it turns out, and because they take risk, all these corporations are supposed to make these huge profits and have all these great benefits because they take risks. But anytime it is time for them to take risk, they run to Papa government. Please take this risk away from us. Student loans, okay, we'll give the student loans, government, but you take the risk. We'll do the loans for the small businesses. Okay, government, you take the risk, but we'll give the loans. And we'll put a tack on that and make some money. No risk. We have to start getting smart. We are a socialist state for corporations and an evil capitalist state for the average American worker. And if you take a listen to what Domingo Garcia, the president of LULAC, has to say, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Here is Domingo Garcia. Welcome to one more segment of Politics Done Right. Today I'm honored to be with Domingo Garcia, who is LULAC's national president. Domingo, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm doing great.
Well, look, let me tell you, Domingo, when I got the opportunity to speak to you, I wish it were on better terms, but one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was what's happening to our people in the meat packing industry. And, you know, we could extrapolate that to a lot of other places. So before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with LULAC.
Yes, I'm the son of a undocumented immigrant who came to the United States when he was 15, and a Native American mother, Apache Native American in West Texas, who met. I was, my mom was 17. I was a teenage mom. I'm the oldest of seven. Grew up on the farm worker fields of West Texas, but the first one to graduate from high school. Went on to work my way through school at University of North Texas, and then I went to Houston to Texas Southern University. Graduated from Thurgood Marshall School of Law, and been a Latino activist most of my life. Because when you start from the bottom, you don't forget who's still there and how you need to help. And that's why I became national president of LULAC now for about 2.5 years, and been active. And as I was a former city council member, the first Latino mayor pro tem of Dallas, was a state representative for 6 years, and passed House Bill 1403, which was the Texas Dream Act, which allowed what we now have Dreamers. In April 6, 2006, led 500,000 people through downtown Dallas on a pro-immigration march, one of the largest marches in American history. So, I'm down for the cause, basically.
Let me tell you why I wanted to ask you this, and there's another question I want to ask you before we get into the meat of what we want to discuss. Is we have a lot of organizations that claim to be working for the people, for the man, for the masses. And what I love with your story is that what we have is somebody who's lived it, somebody who's worked through it, and somebody who is coming back to mitigate what's going on right now. You told me a story that was really touching earlier on as we spoke about a woman who was taking care of her grandkids and had an interesting interaction with the criminal justice system. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
My first job out of law school was working at the Harris County District Attorney's Office there in Houston, Texas. And I was working misdemeanor courts, and we had a 83-year-old African-American woman, elderly, looked at her file, no previous criminal record, and went and spoke to her because she didn't have an attorney. And she told me that her daughter, who evidently was addicted to drugs, had left 2 of her grandchildren with her. She only had a Social Security check, and they were crying. And she basically shoplifted baby milk and Pampers, and got caught. So I wanted to dismiss the charges and just send her to social services. The DA at that time, my chief said no. She has to have a fine and she has to pay. And I just felt that wasn't justice. So I charges against her, and I resigned. I said, hey, that wasn't what I thought justice was about.
And that left an indelible impression on me. I mean, that is a kind of person in the criminal justice system that we need. And I mean, your life plays a good part, or rather a necessary part in what's going on now. Tell me a little bit about what's happening specifically in the meatpacking industry that that we should be aware of, and that we should be fighting to make sure things are quite a bit different than they are right now.
Well, when an American family goes tonight and have dinner and they pray, before the meal, thank Jesus for this, it's really Jesus. There's a Jesus somewhere at a meatpacking plant in Marshalltown, Iowa, in O'Neill, Nebraska, in Cactus, Texas, okay, who's actually there and doing some of the hardest work. For those of you who might have read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair about the conditions at the meatpacking plants in Chicago in the early 1900s, they haven't changed that much, okay? It's still a backbreaking job that almost no Americans done. And in fact, probably 80% of the workforce are undocumented or refugees, meaning from Africa, who work in these plants. Long hours, very difficult work for minimum wage. And what's happened is that with the COVID-19, once one person gets it, these are people that are 2,000-3,000 people in a plant, bumper to bumper, basically. And the meatpacking companies, billion-dollar companies, the largest one is JBS, owned by 2 Brazilian billionaires of beef. And another one like Smithfield, owned by Chinese companies, they're just concerned with the bottom line of the dollar. And these disposable workers, okay, are now essential workers, because if you are not going to get that steak, that pork chop, that chicken leg, unless their plants are going. And these plants have been closing as literally dozens of workers have died in the last 2 weeks. Thousands, we're estimating 5,000.
I want to interrupt for a second here. We don't hear that dozens of workers have died from the coronavirus. Please, are you telling me it's not the 3 or 4 that the mainstream media is reporting right now? You're saying dozens of meat workers have actually died?
Yes, I'm going to make them personal. In Greenlee, Colorado, which is a JBS plant, we received a complaint 3 weeks ago, and we started trying to work with the owners of the plant about the conditions of the workers. Give them PPE masks, give them plexiglass to separate them, slow down the production lines so that you stop the virus. They refused to do so. We had to go and send a letter to the governor of Colorado, had to file complaints with OSHA, had to file complaints with the local health department, and they closed them down. But you know what happened between then? 4 people died. Among them was a gentleman named Senor Biden, 78 years old, worked at the plant for 36 years, and went, got sick, and died, and left a wife and children, okay? And he's just one of many, okay? Here in Dallas, Texas, where I'm at today, 2 people at a sausage making factory died this week, okay? And over several dozen are sick. And this is happening across the country. We are putting a database because there's not one right now. We're working with the union. Some of these places are unionized. But no, we're talking about literally life and death decisions being made to go to work. And this week, one of the most, I think, tragic decisions ever made by a president of the United States, Donald Trump used the War Powers Act, okay, to say that we are going to make sure these meat packing plants are open. And no matter what the governor or the local health department says, these plants are going to stay open. And if somebody dies, one of the workers dies, one of the workers is hospitalized and on a ventilator, the companies are immune, okay? That means that when Saul Sanchez dies in Greenlee, Colorado, his wife and children cannot sue the company that put him in a dangerous situation. And that's just total abuse of power. It's immoral, it's unchristian, and it's un-American.
It is completely un-American. When I saw that Mitch McConnell wants to extend that law even further to cover all companies that are bringing people in to absolve them of any responsibility of their negligent in their places of business that get their employees infected, and then they want to open the states, quote unquote, open the states and have people working. So I mean, this extends further than the meat plants, even though the meat plants are where we are having some concentration right now. Isn't it true that because first responders are generally manual work, except for doctors and nurses, of course, the janitors, the people who have to clean up at hospitals, the people who have to serve, the people who have to deliver packages, from the people who are staying home away from the virus, isn't it true that based on our socioeconomic system right now, it tends to be a majority of black and brown people and very poor socioeconomically absolved white people?
What COVID-19 has done is shown the economic apartheid in America between the haves and the have-nots. It's shown the health apartheid in America between the haves and the have-nots. And the fact of the matter is, black and brown people, for example, are disproportionately being impacted. They're on the front lines. They're essential workers, even though they were considered disposable workers, disponibles in Spanish in the past. You know, a worker got injured, he was taken off, and another immigrant was put in there. Well, now they're considered essential workers, but they're not treated as essential workers. And the fact of the matter is, these people that are in the meatpacking companies, plants, and the poultry plants, and the pork plants, they're just as essential and as important as that doctor and nurse at a hospital, but they're not treated that way. They are heroes. They're making sure that those steaks and pork chops wind up on America's table. All they're asking for is safe working conditions. And for example, if a worker gets hurt, or if he gets sick with COVID-19 and is out 2 weeks, he gets no check. There is no sick leave. And they can't complain because many of them are undocumented. Okay? So the people that Trump rails against, the immigrants, the brown and black people coming into the United States, are the ones that are keeping America fed. They're the economic engine of America, and they always have been, but they've never been respected or treated with dignity.
It's amazing that prejudice, the consequences of prejudice, if we actually planted out to where they want it to be, how they would stay unfed, how they would be, how the kind of problems that they would have. Now, whenever I have these types of interviews, I like to ask what are the immediate solutions and then what are the long-term solutions. So what do you see as an immediate solution to this? I know you're having a town hall on Monday, I believe. Before we go into solutions, why don't you tell us a little bit about this town hall that you're going to be having?
On Monday at 12 o'clock, we will be having LULAC along with 5 congressmen, including Joaquin Castro from San Antonio and Primo Vela from the Valley, and 2 senior committee chairs over the health and working conditions of these meatpackers and the plants that they're in. They are not holding congressional hearings because the Congress is still not in session. So this is the closest thing we can do. I heard today that Biden might join in on the town hall. We had one this last week on Thursday with Univision. We had 1.3 million people listen in. We're expecting a larger crowd this Monday because this is important and this is impacting people. And even though you might not hear about it, well, there might be a meat shortage, but there might be a meat shortage because all these workers are getting sick and dying, and these plants are closing. And we got to make sure we do this right. So immediately improve the work conditions of these workers, provide them benefits, sick leave, unemployment, provide for their medical care, make sure they're legal residents. They say, I'm afraid to go get a test or go to the hospital because I could become a public charge and lose my green card and be deported back to the country of origin. President Trump and this administration has the authority to give them temporary protected status, all of them, to make sure that they get tested, they get treated, and they go back to work and keep the food supply going in a safe manner. But you're refusing to do that. And I think that's where the answer is, and we're asking Congress to help us with that.
Now, I want to ask you about the Campos and the fincas right now, the fields and the farms, okay? Because there we have an overrepresentation as well of black and brown folks, mostly brown folk in the fields. Tell me, right now we're seeing a whole lot of waste because there's nobody to really take the food. I think we still have the people who will pick the food to take the food. How do you see going forward in America when it's time to start the cycle all over again?
Well, almost 90% of all the farm workers, the people who put those vegetables on your table, are Latino, and some are Filipino, but mainly Latino. And I got a complaint yesterday from one of our LULAC councils in Arizona by Tucson that said that all these farm workers are being laid off because restaurants are the vegetables that used to go to restaurants. Restaurants have been closed in most of America for 45 days now. So that's why their farmers are plowing the crops down. And this is leaving thousands and thousands of farm workers that are unemployed. And in Arizona, they're waiting 4 to 5 hours in line because they got to go in person to fill out the unemployment form. Okay, and then they got to come back once a week to show that they still don't have a job to continue getting the checks. And they're standing out there in 100, 105 degree weather. Okay, and we're providing water for them and cold drinks just because there's thousands of them lined up around the building to get unemployment. And that's just in that one particular place in Arizona. We're hearing the same thing in California, Washington State, Wisconsin. It's a serious concern because again, these families living are week to week, month to month, and if they don't have any money coming in, then that means they're going to be evicted. That means they're going to lose their car, the small possessions they have, and the inequality we see in the United States will just get bigger and bigger. And I think that's going to lead to possible social strife in the future.
I actually think
the government takes immediate, I'm going to call it New Deal proposals. Like it took the Great Depression for Roosevelt to pass Social Security, to pass Medicare, to pass unemployment. Everybody said that was socialism and communism when he did it, but that's what got America up again. And I think we're going to need some bold, courageous political leaders, both Democrats and Republicans, to help people right now. Otherwise, I think the class divisions will just be exacerbated. The racial divisions will be exacerbated, and the politics of us against them that Trump has been playing will play out again in November with serious ramifications in the future, which only the Russians can be happy about.
Well, you know, the funny thing about it is all these plutocrats need to remember there are more of us than there are of them. That's numero uno. But also, I think it's important. First of all, you talk about impending depression because of the dereliction of duty of Congress and the president. I will tell you something, okay, or the Senate and the president. We are, and you can mark my word on this, we are going into a depression. The problem is how long it's going to last, and likewise, how do we mitigate it? And my expectation is I hope they understand that the only mitigation is going to be UBI and a lot of these different types of services and policy that right now it's anathema to most of the Republicans. So you're concerned about a depression. I'm telling you, we have to work and understand that we are going into a depression. Before we go, give me a closer and go ahead.
I think that Andrew Yang has the correct answer. And for those of you who follow the Democratic primary, a universal income. Instead of giving the money to these multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 companies like we did in the first round of supposedly small business loans, which went to the steakhouses, the Marriotts of the world, instead of the Taqueria de Lupita or Juana's Quinceañera shop that needed the help, we need to give everybody $2,000 a month until we get back to the employment figures that we had before the pandemic. And if we don't, then a lot of Americans are going to be left out, and it's not going to be good for the United States. We need to have a healthy, good middle class or working class. Otherwise, if you just have the 1% and then the 99%, that's just going to lead to potential bad situations in America.
Domingo Garcia, LULAC National President. It's been my honor to have you on Politics Done Right. Thank you so kindly for being here. Please don't become a stranger.
Have me on again. Thank you.
Absolutely.
La
Thank you.
Victoria.
La Victoria, hermano.
Adios.
Adios. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We had a little bit of sound problem. I think what happened, he probably was having a little bit of internet problems on his side because our side was pretty tight, as it turns out. Anyhow, folks, you know what time it is. I'm sorry I won't be able to go through the notes today, but we'll do that. I'll do that if I have to answer any at another time. Please do remember that this is a show that needs your support. So to store.politicsdoneright.com, store.politicsdoneright.com, and support the program by getting a t-shirt, getting a cup, getting like one of those. We have a whole lot of different cups with different captions on it, but you can also get, as I see it, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, which is a book that I wrote if you want to learn about the economy and all the book about patents and how we are really not much different than a communist society that has a regulated economy. We just decide to regulate it a bit differently. What we need is really, really, really true enterprise. Please go to store.politicsdoneright.com. Again, that is store.politicsdoneright.com and support the show. You can also, what we are really, really, really looking for, folks, is subscribers. We need you to come and subscribe. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Our subscription rates are really, really inexpensive because what we need is hundreds, thousands of subscribers to build what we have to build as an independent network to get things out to you so that we can not be colored by the corporatocracy who are dependent on ads from them. If they want to advertise with us, fine. But guess what? If they don't, who cares? Or we're not going to tailor the message based on advertisers. We're going to tailor the message on just telling you the truth. You can also go to paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Again, that is paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Again, the store link is store.politicsdoneright.com, store.politicsdoneright.com. But most of all, folks, subscriptions. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.